Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I am starting a brand new sketchbook, so let's jump right into it. One of the things I really like to do when I'm first starting a sketchbook is to do something pretty simple and adding stickers from some of your favorite artists or even some of your own. These are actually some stickers that are available in my shop online and some of my washi tapes as well. It's a good way just to keep the memory of them. I also like to have an introduction page or an information page. That way, if you're as clumsy as I am and you forget your sketchbook somewhere, they know where to send it to. Honestly, most people probably would just chunk it, which is sad, but it's in there just in case. I did decide to use some supplies that I don't typically use, so for this first page, I used my watercolor markers. And honestly, I'm not even sure if I really know how to use these. Maybe I should do some research. But I do tend to draw with them and then go over them with water. I think maybe laying water down and then using them on top of that would probably give a better result. But I just wanted to try out some supplies and see what I could use on this paper. It is a watercolor sketchbook, so the paper is really nice and thick and durable. Now, this next idea is something that I'm fairly new to as far as adding into sketchbooks. I like to do swatches of my paint on small scrap paper when I'm working on a larger piece, just to get an idea of what colors I have and what colors I'd like to use. So I decided to just do swatches of the paints that I like to use in my sketchbook here. This is a really good example of how you can use gouache as a dark opaque paint or as a watercolor paint, like I actually talked about in my 5 supplies for beginners video I just put up, so I'll link that below for you as well. I also had swatches from some watercolor palettes I decided just to glue in, just to fill some pages and have it there for reference as well. I also really like the idea of doing smaller thumbnail paintings or thumbnail sketches, so I thought this would be a really good way for me to test out some watercolor paint palettes that I haven't been able to really try. So I'm just doing some tiny little thumbnail paintings. Come here. And I'm not going to fill this whole page. I'm actually going to probably come back to this over time and add some smaller thumbnail pages. I have 4 of these smaller palettes, so I'll probably jump back and forth between them just to test the colors and see how they look. I did decide to go pretty simple with these. I really wanted to get an idea of how the colors layered as well as how they laid down wet on wet. So that first thumbnail is all just wet on wet. And the next few I did kind of go back and forth between letting it dry and then layering it or just doing the wet on wet. I really like the second one, the like yellow mountains thing. I think that would make a really cute sticker, so I think I might have to scan these in. Once the page is filled, I'll probably scan it in and edit all of them and then cut them into stickers. Now this next page actually came out nicer than I thought it would. I was kind of playing with the idea of making patterns, being able to scan this in, turning it into bookmarks, or you can actually have it printed to make fabric for clothing and things like that. I like the idea of it. So I'm kind of just messing around with making patterns, and then maybe in the future I can get some fabric printed and, you know, make some clothes or something like that. It's also a really good way to practice mixing different colors and tones, trying to keep in the same family of general colors. I went in with my Posca pens, just to add a little bit of detail and texture onto the flowers. I really liked this, and I honestly wish that I had kind of stopped at this point. I did add some leaves as well. I did notice that it needed a little bit more green. But I did go in with my paint pens to add dots. I don't know why, I think maybe it just felt really plain and too kind of simple. I wish I hadn't done that, but overall the rest of it I really do like. Now this next one is something I've actually wanted to do for a while, and it's a color wheel to practice color theory. I went in with my Holbein gouache. I did do the primary colors as well as green, and then you pretty much just add a little bit to each color as you go around the wheel, and you get the different shades and you get a good idea of how they look when they're mixed. So here I just added a little bit of yellow to the red, and then on the next block when I want it to be more on the orange side, a little bit more orangey than it was before, I'll just add a little bit more to that, and then I can go around and you can go all the way around the wheel until each block is filled. This next idea did not come out the way that I had it in my mind, and it might have been just me not being patient enough to take the time to make it exactly how I thought it would come out. But basically I'm doing a collage that's going to be some shrubs. I didn't want to go and do anything that was overly detailed with this because I knew it would take forever, and the whole point in this was to fill the sketchbook with fun, different ideas, things that I don't typically do, but things that probably wouldn't take too long. So I just ripped up a few different shades of green cardstock and layered them to add a little bit of dimension. I did use the glue that I usually use when I'm binding books, and it worked just fine. The page ended up being very thick, but it is what it is. It's glue and it's paper. I knew it was not going to be the thinnest page, but it was probably good that I did this on watercolor paper because it withstood the glue and everything so easily. I did decide to add a little bit of mixed media to this by doing watercolor in the sky, hoping to make it look more like a scene. I think it helped a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure. So once that was dry, I was able to move on, and this next one is probably my favorite one so far. I really like the idea of just layers and layers of one object in a painting, and then you add dimension by adding the paint on top. I also got to use my watercolor paint, which I don't tend to be able to use a whole lot. I did a little bit of gouache as well on top of it when I wanted to add some dimension, but overall, it is watercolor. Once I had all of the pumpkins laid out, I did go in and just lighten it a little bit with my eraser. Because I am using watercolor, I didn't want to see that too much through everything. So I just took my time and mixed different shades of orange and layered it all up. This definitely took the longest of most of the stuff in the sketchbook, but I really liked how it came out, and I think I might try and do this as a seasonal style painting where maybe in the spring I choose flowers, maybe in the summer it's different trees, things like that. But overall, it's a good way to fill a whole page in your sketchbook without having to be super detailed, and you're able to practice your color mixing as well. Anyway, once all the layering and everything is done for that, and all the details that you want, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe. If you have any sketchbook ideas, please comment below. I'd really love to see what you have. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.